Hey guys, Mike and Brad here from Office of the CISO, and today we're going to be talking about cybersecurity regulations and the good, the bad, and the in-between that kind of comes with it. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so we've been reading through some articles as of late, and they all have to do with cybersecurity regulations, whether it be suspected event notifications, whether or not people should, trust companies that build products, all the way down to the Whitehouse pushing out articles about, security.
Yes, security. Yeah, and it'll come in the form of legislation or regulations as put out, but like one of the articles is by the FCC, and I think we just wanted to talk through whether or not it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and we basically have three different articles and or postings that we're going to be referencing specifically for this conversation. One of them is from the White House directly. It's a little fact sheet that they put out back in October of 22. Basically, the administration delivering on strengthening America's cybersecurity, specifically critical infrastructure, which is a big deal. Critical infrastructure, for those of you that don't know, that's like your water, your SCADA systems, and all
power,
that, right?
water, health systems, internet backbones, that kind of thing. Yeah.
The things that we really rely on, not only as IT professionals, but as a society in general.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So that's one of them. Next one's going to be talking about some hoopla that the director of CISA came out with.
Hoopla, I like it.
Well, yeah, when we get to it, when we start talking about that one, you can see why I disagree with her so much. And then, last but not least, the FCC and their accelerated breach reporting for telcos.
Right.
Right now, it is specific to telcos, but, definitions change based on what the government wants us to do, so we'll see. But yeah, so Brad, which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with the Biden fact sheet.
Okay.
So it's a an article that was published on the whitehouse.gov website. When was this published? Also, yeah, that's the one you mentioned was back in October.
Yeah, October 11th.
Yeah,
of 22.
Yep. So it lays out a lot of the Biden administration's direction for strengthening the cybersecurity of critical infrastructure. So reading through the bullets and the paragraphs that are on this page, the surface level looks really good. Like the words on the page look really good.
As long as they stay those words.
Yeah, as long as that's what's meant by what's being said.
Not necessarily stay in those words, but as long as the definitions of those words stay.
And don't get stretched or changed, yeah.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit, if you don't mind, what exactly they're trying to outline or what they're trying to do with this directive.
Well, so it's like most directives. They don't get into details, and that's typically where the problems lies, in the details. But at a high level, they just want to improve the cybersecurity of critical infrastructure, which is the very first bullet. But it's the down the road stuff that I'm fearful of. We have like financial regulation that requires systems that deal with financial information to meet a certain list of criteria. That's the Graham-Leach, Bliley, GLBA.
Something we deal with a lot lately.
Yeah. We've got HIPAA, right, which deals with covered entities, doctors' offices, clearinghouses, health clearinghouses, things like that, and it prescribes requirements around IT and information, protected health information within the healthcare industry. But the critical infrastructure, if they were to get into requiring critical infrastructure to meet a list of cybersecurity bullets or whatever, I don't know if that's not an overreach because of how large critical infrastructure is. Now, and I know that we've got bad guys in our SCADA systems and in our electrical grids and in our water system. They're in there. I know that. But I don't know that regulation is the fix.
It very rarely is.
I know.
It very rarely is. And my main hang up with it is critical infrastructure as of today includes water, backbone, the typical. Let's Google that real quick while we're doing it. And the concern is that they're going to add something to that, like, the internet as a whole is critical infrastructure. Okay, that's nice, but we need to be able to ban this from our users. And all of a sudden, you got a China thing coming on here, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's already like the list of them is huge. So I'll run through real quick, just a few. Chemical sector, the commercial facilities sector, communications, critical manufacturing, defense, industrial-based sector, like the dams that hold water back, energy, emergency services, financial services. I mean, lots and lots of things are covered by this, and that's just it's a broad swath to apply regulation, and I'm afraid that it could kill some businesses in these sectors, really.
Especially if the regulation that they apply isn't necessarily applicable to that particular use case, right?
Yeah. I mean, if like one of them I didn't mention, food and agriculture sector. Any farmers that are up to date on their cybersecurity practices?
I tell you what, some of those John Deere tractors have some pretty cool technology in them.
Yeah, they do.
Like they drive themselves.
Right. And I get not wanting a foreign nation to control our tractors. I get it.
It'd be like that movie Maximum Overdrive where the trucks just start driving around and taking over people.
Was that a 90s movie?
It was. Emilio Estevez.
I don't think I saw it.
Oh, man, you're missing out.
I'll go do my research.
Do the needful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they outline some good things here, right? Because their primary focus is to counter ransomware attacks, which obviously have wreaked absolute havoc across all industry, not just private or public.
Yeah, they cripple a lot.
Which is, it's funny because public, I mean, a lot of times, I know in our state we can't pay ransoms because it's considered like terrorist or hostage association. So if you're a public entity, you're SOL if you don't have cyber liability insurance or a third party that can help you out there.
Right.
But they do. They have a lot of very, very vague outlines. And, of course, we're going to put all this in the video notes. But like working with allies and partners to deliver a more secure cyberspace. And it's like, in addition to launching the International Counter-Ransomware Initiative, the administration has established cyber dialogues with a breadth of allies and partners to build collective cybersecurity, formulate coordinated response, and develop cyber deterrence. Except that half the time it's state actors that are doing the ransomware and the attacks, which I guess that's why they say allies, right?
Yeah, and again, like the words sound really good, but I don't know how much of that, like if they're going to do what those words just said, it sounds to me like they're going to get involved in our networks and our communications traffic, and that's going to give them eyes to feed their ISACs and things like that.
Which we are huge proponents of the ISACs.
But I don't know. It's just giving NSA and CIA and FBI more foothold.
Nah, it just gives them the legal way to do what they're already doing.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
But yeah, we'll post a link to this article. Our opinion on this one generally doesn't matter because we're sitting here slamming the government for overreach, right? And we both work for the government, and we have for quite a while. So all of our, we're CISOs for state agencies, so we know what it's like, and we've done a lot of work with federal.
Right.
And we've helped them implement and develop some of this stuff, so it's kind of asinine that I have an opinion on it, but whatever.
I'd agree. Well, I realize what I'm saying. I do agree. Yeah.
So we're not trying to be those guys, but we're going to be those guys at the same time. Speak out of both sides of our heads. But yeah, so that's the Biden-Harris administration doing their thing. Now, the next two, I'm going to save the best for last because CISA is a good organization, but sometimes they say things that you think really smart people shouldn't say. So I'm going to save them for last. We're going to jump over to this InfoSecurity article, which is done by InfoSecurity magazine. And it's specifically talking about the FCC wanting to accelerate our breach notification capability.
Right.
And this is just for telcos right now. But, and we are obviously very pro tell people when you get popped. That way people know if their data has been compromised. But Brad, what's the issue that we have with this one?
Well, so I don't know their specific time frames. I don't know if I noticed the time frame they're talking about, but a lot of the regulations will have like a number of days in a breach reporting scenario.
And that's not of the attack, but of the you becoming aware that you were attacked
Yeah,
or something like that.
yeah. Aware of a breach, aware of an active incident or something like that. And it's mostly when individuals are impacted, they want those entities to tell the individuals that they were impacted.
Right.
They don't necessarily have to announce it to the world, but they have to let those individuals know somehow. And a lot of times they have to notify authorities. Alabama is the Attorney General's office that gets notified.
And it's on that one. So in the state of Alabama, I can't remember offhand the requirement from a timeline perspective, but any breach that results in significant loss or risk to the constituents of Alabama.
Yeah. And there's the numbers are. I mean, they've got numbers prescribed with it and things like that, but I don't remember what.
Which we were big fans of that bill getting through our legislature. It did look at things for us.
Yeah, to the point that we made them rename it from a cybersecurity bill to a breach notification bill.
Yeah,
because we wanted it
very specific.
Right. Anyway, so this one, the reduction in breach notification time frames, again, I get it. I totally get it. But we're working with like free enterprise here. We're working with companies that are trying to make a living, that are trying to pay the people that work for them, that are trying to provide services. If you shrink these reporting time frames too short, then like panic ensues and everybody, or you start ignoring things that are like real incidents because you don't want to have to get involved in a breach notification scenario.
One of the references in the article says, however, there's certainly a need to update telco breach reporting rules, which are now 15 years old, as industry players continue to be a major target for threat actors. For instance, last year, T-Mobile agreed to pay over $350 million to settle a class action lawsuit relating to a 2021 cyber attack that impacted an estimated 80 million U.S. residents.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. I think the only real concern that we have here is folks that do not do cybersecurity being the ones that write policy or legislation.
Fair enough, yeah.
Because if they come back and say a private organization needs to notify someone within an hour of a suspected event, I mean, that there's going to be a lot of noise that even the federal people can't even keep up with. And this one's specifically talking about getting rid of the 7-day mandatory waiting period for notifying customers, which might not be a bad idea. We don't need to wait 7 days once we know for a fact a breach happened.
No. If an individual's information is lost, they need to be able to react as quickly as possible.
And get lifelock on their stuff, lock their credits. And
it also, the definition of what they want reported. Like I've worked with a federal agency who wanted a report of a suspected incident, not even like a suspected breach, but a suspected incident within an hour.
And what's broken about that is, one, it's relative.
Sure,
what you find to be a suspected incident might be normal stuff for me, but I tend to be a little bit more lackadaisical than you are.
Right, and I'll report everything. Like, oh, geez, we think this is an incident. Holy cow, here we go.
Right, someone failed their login attempt. Are we sure it was them? Incident. Next thing you know, the FCC is being notified on every little thing. That could be a nightmare.
It could.
For both sides.
And then real stuff gets dropped because you're spending all your time reporting suspected incidents. Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be a balance to it, but we can't have the regulation overimpose or overstep. I guess reason, if that makes sense. I mean, if it becomes unreasonable, then people will find ways out of it, and the good will get lost. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It is what it is.
Yeah. So I think that's all I've got for that FCC article or the Info Security Magazine article.
Yeah, so that's the Info Security. Let's see, what's it?
Infosecurity-magazine.com.
Infosecurity-magazine.com. They have some pretty good stuff. I actually like that site. And then, of course, last but not least, CISA director Jen. I think it's pronounced Easterly. It looks like it's pronounced Easterly.
Yeah, I think you're
right. She took over for the last guy that Trump fired for whatever reason.
Was that 21 or 22?
It's been a while. It's been a while, but she took over, and she's been there since like 21, I believe.
No, he fired him in 20, didn't he? And then it was
I
when the
don't
election
remember.
happened.
I don't remember. But anyways, Jen Easterly is the CISA director, and she's really, really smart. But sometimes they say things which, again, this is all perspective. You know, if you look through a different looking glass for each one, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So basically, a quote from the Yahoo Finance article specifically says, "We cannot have the same sort of attacks on hospitals and school districts that we've been seeing for years." And we agree, but that's not going to come from making software companies or hardware companies make sure that their product is more secure out the gate.
No, it won't. So in my opinion, I still think the free enterprise model is a good one. So things like LastPass happening, yeah, we lost a lot of
Man, LastPass got
passwords.
owned.
Yeah, I mean, and they're probably wrecked as a company because they can't do what they were there to do, which was protect your credentials. But that kind of a thing, I mean, I think free enterprise is going to weed out the ones that can't handle
Yeah,
securing their stuff.
because your company's going to fail otherwise, right?
Yeah,
Here's the only real blurb from it. So Easterly goes on to say things like, it should be on companies like Microsoft, and this is not a direct quote. So this is a summary in my view of what she's saying. Companies like Microsoft and software company A, software company B should be held to a higher standard to make sure that their software is secure. And I'm like, okay, I get that. But then she says things like, we've accepted the fact that cyber safety is my job and your job and the job of my mom and my kid, but we've put the burden on customers we've put the burden on consumers, not on the companies who are best equipped to be able to do something about it. Now, here's the only real issue that I have with that statement. I don't care how secure your environment is. When little Jane Doe at the front desk clicks the stupid link, the system's compromised. I don't care how secure all of your stuff is.
the lady.
It's always the human.
It's always the lady that never gets invoices. That's
Never gets
opening the
invoices
invoice
like, I need to
attachments.
pay this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is our responsibility, Jen. It is our responsibility as end users. It is our responsibility as cybersecurity professionals, educators, things of that nature, to make sure that we keep preaching security awareness. We keep preaching a clean, healthy approach to cyber hygiene in general, and we teach people to question things. I don't want my people assuming the software is so secure that it's going to protect them from everything. I want their heads on a swivel. Right?
Well, yeah, the individual consumers don't need to be nonchalant about their personal security either.
Because I don't care how secure you make text messages. When they get that Amazon link, they're going to think it's theirs unless they've been taught otherwise.
Right.
Ultimately, it is the end user that needs to be smart. Now, that being said, the Fortinet vulnerability where you could get administrative access straight into the box
Because of SSL services, yeah.
because of SSL services, or the actual admin one that was a month before. We went through 2 months. We had two major, and for those of y'all that know me, I'm a big Fortinet person. A cybersecurity company should never have bugs that blatant in their software, so they should have paid closer care. It is what it is.
But that stuff happens. I mean, I don't know.
But it's still inevitable.
And they fixed it. Like they fixed it. Yeah, it's a little bit of a pain to patch the firmware of a FortiGate that's in production.
Mm-hmm.
That's why UHA things. We build architectures to support activities like that. I don't like a lot of times with regulation comes fines and things like that, and I don't think companies need to start getting fined every time there's a vulnerability found, because geez Louise, that'll shut these companies down.
Yeah.
Even like Microsoft, how often are they releasing patches for security vulnerabilities? I mean, we call it Patch Tuesday because of that stuff.
I mean, and ultimately, it's the people that want features added rapidly,
Yeah, that's
which
the kicker.
introduce
Yeah.
the new bugs, right?
That's the kicker. So that's going to slow down a lot of that. And the companies that have any kind of risk aversion are going to halt all of the rapid development and that kind of a mindset.
The CIA triad is something that we have to wobble on. You
Yeah.
got to get the features out there to keep the people using it, to keep
Yeah.
progress going, right? She did have one last quote that I actually agree with, but for different reasons than what she thinks. Or maybe she agrees and I took it wrong, because I take any government official saying something from a very specific...
Yeah, you always look at them askew.
Cyber is a social good. I agree. It's about societal resilience. I agree. And my last message is that we need to fundamentally change the relationship between government and industry. We sure do.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, but I think, and I may be wrong, this is my opinion. I kind of took that like maybe she thought that the government needs to have more say.
Yeah,
I'm thinking they need to back off and let people die. You need to have an overarching requirement that people are doing due care and due diligence based on their organization and their industry. Healthcare should be doing more than agriculture.
Yeah.
Finance should be doing more than plumbers and certain service models, right?
Yeah.
So,
And when it comes to these technology companies, most of the large ones have those regulations put on them through agreements with their clients.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, 90% of any contracts that we've ever worked on, either as consultants or as state agencies where we've put them out there,
Yeah.
we set the standard, which is usually a lot more strict than what the end company usually wants to do.
Right.
And we hold them to it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I don't know. I just don't think regulation is the fix. I don't think it's the fix.
I don't either. But it would be cool if we had someone like Jen on the podcast where we could talk to her about it.
Heck yeah, dude. You want to send out an invite?
I don't know. The last guy I messaged got fired.
I might need to hear that.
So, but yeah, that's pretty much the gist of today, man. Cybersecurity, regulation, the good and the bad of it. The good, it absolutely does make organizations that would otherwise turn an eye do more than they probably would have, because normally they're going to try to cut as much cost as possible, right?
Yeah.
The bad is that it almost always leads to overreach and a convolution, the implementation of a convoluted profile that makes things work a lot slower.
And can make things worse.
It adds 30 steps. And because of those 30 steps, they never get done, so they don't innovate, so then life gets worse. The in-between of it is, it's probably a necessary evil that's obviously never going to go away until modern organizations or governments crumble and something new happens. And that's one way to look at it. But yeah, man. You're always going to have people that do the bare minimum. You're always going to have people that overreach. How do we find a happy medium? Anyways, we would love to hear your comments.
Heck yeah.
On all three of those articles, whether it be the the Biden administration release talking about cybersecurity, critical infrastructure cybersecurity improvements, which we are definitely on board with. We just worry about the term critical being updated to meet something that's meets their agenda, but whatever.
Yeah.
The next one is talking specifically about
breach notifications.
Notifications
from telcos. Yeah.
Again, we're totally on board with that. It can add a lot of noise, but we'd like to hear your opinions on that as well. And then, of course, your thoughts or maybe your perspective on the article about Jen Easterly from CISA and what she said and what she's taken to CES.
Yeah, recording the
that was
tech industry.
specifically her talking about some things that she's going to CES with. So
Right.
Which, again, perspective, there's like 900 different looking glasses to look at it.
Yeah.
And mine is very cynical.
And if we're not looking at it right, I mean, if there are better ways to look at it, I think we invite looking into those mindsets a little.
Absolutely. Whether it be comments below where we can have some responses and go from there. So, But yeah, that's it from a cybersecurity regulation standpoint. We hope you enjoyed the show. We're going to keep doing these and hopefully you enjoy them.
Yeah.
So do us a favor. If you are watching this on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell if you haven't already. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, or any of the other services, we hope that you've enjoyed it and that you add us to your normal listening routine, even if it's just to hear us ramble and mumble and complain about all the stuff that we do. So, but until next time, you guys stay safe. Thanks.